Counsel, your appearance, please.
The Nicholas Court, Francis Finnegan, and her advocate. Mr. Carter, he's my life.
Thank you. All right, here for sentencing, correct? All right, have you two had a chance to go over the report and recommendation, counsel?
Yes.
No corrections? All right, anything to add by way of elocution?
I do. And, I'm truly really important that we really taking this serious. AA, what, 2 times?
Good,
Right, toward and for.
good. How long you been in?
Since April.
Okay, how's it going? So fairly fresh. Yeah, okay. So what I notice with a lot of my participants is the first couple months are tough because they're trying to figure out how to juggle everything and time management and everything else. Are you struggling a little bit?
It's part of the team now. So at the beginning, it was
Good.
trying to plan everything.
Yep.
Yep. But
Good.
It's not too challenging.
Good. I'm glad you're in. I'm glad you're in the program. All right, anything else?
But he did a really good job that he's been working in
Not forward more.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm working there, doing good. My manager wants to promote me next year.
Oh, that's a new job too. Yeah, good. All right. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think you're understood. We thank and appreciate if you please accept the recommendation.
I'm going to. Good. So I want to give you something to think about. And I'm adopting in full the recommendation. We'll make that official in a minute. I saw, were you familiar with the adverse childhood experiences before you took the assessment for us? Okay. So you came in at a 6, which is a fairly high number. I want to encourage you to do some research because I'm going to guess, I think you and I could have a really interesting conversation if we sat down over a cup of hot beverage and talked about your childhood. And I'm going to bet that over the last 30 years, you've had this thought through your head a number of times, like, what the hell was I thinking? Why am I doing that?
Right.
Okay? I want you to get into this. I want you to play around on the internet and do a little research on adverse childhood events. When I first got turned on to that concept, at some kind of judicial seminar, I went to something about trauma. You're in your prison counsel, just bear with me. And they kind of whet my interest by giving me some of the high points of the whole thing. And then I started doing some research. And I found the premier study that started the whole thing. It was, I don't remember now, but it seems to me it was, but ancient history. It was like back in the late 70s, early 80s or something like that. But adverse childhood events are basically anything that could be traumatic. And your trauma is not my trauma. So for example, you at 12 years old, you might have been in a car accident with your family. I could have been in the exact same car accident with my family at 12 years old. It might have been traumatic for you and not traumatic for me. Okay. So that's where it gets really interesting to me. But all these different childhood traumatic events add up. And and I'm trying to make this short for you, but I really, really encourage you to get into it and look into it because I think it's going to answer a lot of questions you've had about your life. So for example, you're an engineer, so I have an idea how your brain works because I got buddies that are engineers and they don't think like I do, right? I mean, you guys don't process like other people process, all right? But your brain, our brains are developed or are designed to develop a certain way. And, our norm, right? And then something happens, flight or flight, right? And we peak and then things get back to normal. And something else happens, and then we get back to normal. Well, kids that have enough trauma in their lives, they do this. And then they come down once in a while, and then they go back up, and they spend a lot of time up here, okay? And as a result, your brain literally develops differently than it's designed to develop. Your thought processes don't develop normally, okay? So for me, what I took out of that whole thing is, and this is the biggest part for me, and it did change the way I operate on the bench when I'm conscious, when I'm on my game 100%. Because instead of thinking, when I'm dealing with somebody where you're at, instead of thinking, what
So what the judge is saying here is actually pretty powerful. Instead of only asking why someone made bad choices, he's asking what happened to them before those choices ever started. That's a totally different way of looking at justice.
What the hell's going on with this guy? What happened to this guy? That's a big game changer. Would you agree with me?
Right.
What happened to this guy? What happened to change the way he deals with the world around him differently than he was designed to deal with the world around him? And the reason, and I always give some version of this lecture when I see somebody with a high number, because I think if we don't know what makes us tick, we got very little chance of dealing with it properly. And I'm thinking that your adverse childhood events are a big part of what make you tick, and you might not even know it.
I agree.
Okay, so do some research on it. And one of the things that blew my mind is not just how it changes our life, how we emotionally interact with the world, physically. People that are at a high number on the childhood ACEs, they call it ACEs score, they're, and I don't remember the percentages, I'm just going to throw numbers at you. You know, they're 50% more likely to have heart disease later in life. Okay, they're 70% more likely to abuse substances later in life. I mean, it's not just, you know, it's going to affect our relationships because we process information differently than everybody else we deal with, maybe. It's crazy. But I want you to look into it. Now, the very, very best part for me as a guy that works with kids, because I've been running a juvenile program, is you know what can change the way your brain works, can rewire your brain? Love. I think that's the coolest thing. That makes my tail wag every time I think about it. Because that means that kid that's living up here, what can change that kid's pathway, literally the neural pathways in his head, is a relationship with an adult, can be a coach, can be that teacher that takes that extra interest in him, could be a new, you know, mom gets a new, you know, he gets a new stepfather. All it takes is an adult that kid understands, that person cares about me, and that can change the way their brain processes. And that, I mean, that's mind-blowing stuff for me. It's pretty cool. All right. Not exactly what you expected to hear today, probably. But I would love to hear from you after you've done some research and ask me or tell me if it has been like V8 moment after V8 moment for you, looking back on your life through that filter.
I appreciate that.
Would you share that feedback with me? Okay. All right. Let's get to the business at hand. Okay. Yeah.
And some of that stuff, he talks in church, he's like a minister.
Yeah.
Spots that you.
Yeah.
Stuff that's bigger before too.
Yeah. That family support is huge. Huge. Yeah. Okay. All right. So back to business. I'm going to adopt in full the recommendations of the probation department. That means, what do we have? Items 1 through 10 that were recommendations that you two went over, those are now court orders. That includes the 40 hours of community service. That's just charity work. As long as the IRS is registered with it, the organization as a 501c3, you volunteer with them, get a letterhead that says you've done 40 hours, get that to your probation officer, and we're fine. All right. And you can talk to the probation officer about how much time you've got to get that done. Fines that cost $1,500. Can you pay it today or do you need to talk options? Do that downstairs. Any questions? Good luck in Waterford. You keep them happy, you keep us happy. All right. Have a great day. Counsel, always a pleasure.
And just like that, the hearing came to an end. No screaming. No chaos. Just a judge trying to hold someone accountable while also reminding them they're still human. Moments like this are why people can't stop watching courtroom videos, because sometimes justice sounds a lot more personal than people expect.